Hello, guys. Welcome to the Train Parrot and to another episode of the live TA for Elite. But this week, we're going to do an exception. We are going to start introducing once a month on the last Thursday of the month analysis on PineScript. We're going to do a tutorial, a workshop. We're going to run you from hero to zero, from zero to hero. That sounds a little bit better to learn a little bit of PineScript. If you are familiar with trading, it's kind of the next step, right? Automating things, whether you want to get alerts or you want to focus on how to backtest your own strategy in an automated way, or integrating scripts later with trading bots, and all of that stuff is going to be part of this series that we're going to do, as I say, every last Thursday of the month, once a month for the elite members. If you are watching this stream, the replay on Friday, you can join anytime. The elite membership is with Patreon. The link is in the description. Today, we're going to cover very simple things. It's not going to be hero level straight away. Of course, I want to make sure that you have access to the basics and that you can crawl before you can run. And if you are completely new to PineScript, you are in the right place because we're going to cover all the basics. If you are already experienced, I'm sure that you're going to find a few things that maybe you didn't know. Maybe it's going to be useful, maybe reinforcing some concepts. The style is going to be a little bit jumping into different topics. We're going to pull in some code, so be prepared. If you have your laptop, even better. If you have TradingView, that's also super useful, particularly if you have a paid account, because in that case, you're going to get access to alerts and to a little bit more of data when we enter in the area of the backtesting. But without further ado, let's get started. Let's talk about what is Pine. What is Pine? What is PineScript? And why is it worth really learning this thing? So if you are in TradingView, TradingView is mostly used for manual trading, but there is a lot of nerd people that go geeks that like to automate things and create new indicators, right? So have you ever thought about creating your own indicator, or have you ever been using an indicator that either doesn't do precisely what you want to just tweak it, but you just don't know how to do that thing? Or, for example, you look at an indicator and you say, wow, this is fantastic. Every time we get to this point, that's a great exit or a great entry. So how can I really automate those things? How can I capture the data and turn it into a signal? And then later, how can I backtest it? And I think that's kind of the motivation that brings everybody into PineScript, because PineScript is fully integrated within the ecosystem of TradingView. That means that you get full support for alerts, full support for backtesting, and all of that. We are in PineScript version 6, so it has had already a lot of time to mature. It is not perfect, and I remember in the beginning moaning a lot, coming from background of other languages, and the first times being in PineScript and debugging is not necessarily the most pleasant experience, or is not always reliable. But they have introduced new tooling and it's a lot better these days. So I think it's a great tool. It's absolutely worth learning, at least to know how to do the basic things. So where can we find PineScript? So if we are in a chart and you look down here on the bottom left, you're going to find this thing that says strategy tester. It's going to have a menu, and we're going to create a new indicator. We're going to start with an indicator. Of course, we need to start with the basics. So hit indicator, and that's going to bring some template code that we really pretty much don't need this plot here. So I'm going to delete it. But let me first explain what we have here. So the code starts with the version of PineScript, and then we got the declaration in here that says that we are building an indicator, and that indicator is called MyScript. It's just any name. It could be hello world. And then it's plotting the close value of each candle. And why did they put a plot? Because indicators need to draw something. So if, for example, I wanted to execute this code as it is, and it doesn't plot anything, it's going to throw an error. And that's why they give you as a template this very minimalistic script. So once we get this, how do we get it to work? How do we execute it? How we add it to the chart? So let's go through that. I'm just gonna save it and I'm gonna give it a name. As soon as I click save, it's asking for a name and I'm gonna keep it with that name. Why not? It's just a random name and you can see the name appears now there. And then I get this button that offers to add to the chart. But before I add it to the chart, let me remove all the stuff that I had before so you can confirm 100% that it's working. And by the way, if you are in the live stream, if you're an elite member and you want to make any question, I have the chat right here. So feel free to interrupt. After all, that is the main perk of being an elite member. You're part now of this classroom. And anytime you can interrupt and we can focus on whichever question you have. So we got the code, but it's still not in the chart. So I'm going to click add to the chart and it's going to appear there. So first thing, what do we see here? We see the close of the price. So if we compare the upper end, that is candlesticks, that is the preference that I currently have in my chart. And below I have my script that all it's doing is plotting close. We can also see that it says my script. So that name that I gave here appears there and it appears in the default color, which in TradingView is blue. I don't know why they pick blue on top of dark blue or whatever is that gray. It's difficult to see, right? So let's maybe change it color. So the function plot at this point is plotting the value of the close of the candle. If I wanted to change the color, as soon as I type a comma after the close, I'm gonna get this menu popping up in many different areas on PineScript. You're gonna get these menus that are meant to help you finding the documentation right there when you need it, right? So if I'm inside the function plot and I put the comma, then I get this, and I know that I can give a title to the plot. So I can call this plot 1, and then I put another comma, and it highlights in blue that what comes next is the color. So I can type color, and immediately it auto-completes. So it is showing me as the first option color equal. So I hit enter, and voila, I don't have to type it. Now, if I want to pick a color, well, there's multiple options, but let's say I want to use white, something that it's a bit more visible on top of dark. Sorry, white. There you go. And notice that it says color.white. So from PineScript version 5, I think they introduced these prefixes that most of the things need to be preceded with what they are. So you cannot just type white, you have to type color.white. Makes sense. Many languages follow that principle. As soon as I hit save, I'm in a Mac, so I did Command S. Immediately in the chart, it updated to white. But we are going from very basic, and we are just discovering how to use the playground, how to use the Pine editor. I can hide the Pine editor, and the script is still there. Let's say accidentally I remove the indicator. Oh, where is all my changes? They're all gone. Well, go back to the Pine editor, expand it, and here is the code. But let's say I wanted to a different indicator. This is some code that I was working before, and then I lost it. No, it's always gonna be here somewhere, or you can search for it as well. In this case, you can, if you don't find it here, just click open script and it's gonna give you the option to search across everything you have done in the past. I have thousands of scripts in there, so I'm gonna just go to the recently used my script 23 and we can continue working on that. But now it's not in the chart. Well, add it again. There you go. It's back again, and you can add it. You can select it and put it multiple times in the chart and do anything that you want. Now, when you're doing something in PineScript and you're working with a chart, I recommend that you enable the data window. And this one in here is the third from the top at this time. It's going to show you the object tree, but actually let's go to the data window, the one on the right hand side. That's going to show me all the data that is currently displayed in the chart. So we got the open, high, low, close, that belongs to the actual chart. And then in this section in here, that we have everything that is to do with my script, which at the moment only plots one single thing. But if I copy this line twice in here and I call this a plot 2, and then instead of the close, I put the open of the price, then I get two lines there, plot 1 and 2, and correspondingly one is close and the second one is open. And that's how I add my second plot, and I already feel like a senior in PineScript. I can put two plots. So it's cool. You can do loads of things. For example, I'm hovering the color and it's offering me to pick a custom color or transparency. Let's put this one maybe in green. Let's save again. And now we have a white and a green. Let's see what I could do next. I don't want to jump too advanced too quick to not overwhelm you. Let's look at the indicator. What can we do with this button here? The indicator. Oh yeah, this is pretty cool stuff. So let's say that you don't want to work on an oscillator. You want to work on something that displays on the top area of the chart. So for example, if we were working on a moving average, right? Let's do that. Let's build a simple moving average, and it should be pretty straightforward. And let me put this here, and I'm gonna increase this size. So in order to build a simple moving average in PineScript, you have plenty of functions that are all grouped under TA. Makes sense because they are all part of technical analysis. So you do TA dot, and as soon as you do that, you get this menu that is quite extensive. It contains pretty much every basic TA popular thing that exists, right? ATR, Bollinger Bands width, CCI, blah, blah, crossover, crossunder, and so on. Maximum, minimum, median, MF5, RSI, everything, okay? So have a look at that. That should give you a good time to at least identify everything that comes out of the box. So let's do a simple moving average, and that I'm gonna find it by typing SMA. Of course, there are plenty of other moving averages also available, volume weighted one, VWAPs, all the ones that you can imagine are under TA. And as soon as I hit enter, the cursor is right there in the options. And I got two options according to the documentation, the source and the length. So here is where I need to decide. I'm going to do a moving average of what? Well, most typically you will do it against the close of the price, but you are welcome to do whatever you want. You want to use the high or an average of high plus low divided by 2. You can do whatever you want. And the length. So let's go with a 50 simple moving average, just because that's popular. And by doing all of this, I'm calculating it, but I'm not capturing the result of that. So I need something that every language has, which is a variable. And I'm going to keep that in a variable called SMA 50. I'm not feeling very creative today, so I'm just going to call it like that. SMA 50, or I could call it a short SMA because it's a shorter than the 200, something that you can later, 2 months in time, read and understand what was that, right? Don't call it, Trump or Putin or stuff that you then read and this, what the hell is this? Let's not get political. This is a tutorial. And this is SMA, but now I calculate that and I put it in a variable, but I'm not plotting it. I need to plot it. Otherwise, if I save this, it's going to say, hey, you're working on an indicator. Why are you working on an indicator that doesn't print, plot, chart, anything? That doesn't make any sense. So plot it. And how can we plot this? Well, very simple. We do plot of SMA 50. Notice I'm using a lot the autocomplete. So I just hit the first letter of what I want. If that doesn't bring it, I put another letter. And as soon as I see what I want at the top, I just hit enter. Lazy typing. And then I get plot SMA 50. Now that I save, no more error. That's great. And the plot says 105.6. That is the latest value. Let's look at the chart. Oh no, my SMA is still here, but I want the moving average there. How can I move it there? Well, in Pine, there is the concept of overlay. So when you're doing an indicator that you want it integrated with the price in the same panel of the price, you call that overlay. If you want it separate, you say overlay false. As simple as that. So what I'm going to do is when I declare the indicator, I'm going to tell my indicator what type of indicator it is when it comes to being overlay or not. And guess what? Comma here brings the documentation. So that is something that you should take note. Anywhere you are in any function, you put that comma right there, or you put a comma here, you get it as well. The point is it knows that you are about to add something, a new parameter, and conveniently it offers you straight away the menu that you need to see at the best time, right? So on indicator, I put that comma, and you see that it says title, short title. So it's expecting that after putting the title, you should be putting a short title. And the short title is something that appears in the chart that is shorter, that abstracts less with the rest of the chart. It's conveniency as well, but let's say, well, I don't care about putting a short title now. I don't want to put a short title. That's fine. Then let's just start typing overlay, the O, and the first result is overlay. So I'm going to skip the second parameter, short short title by explicitly saying overlay. And I say overlay true, and that's going to bring the SMA into the main panel together with the price. Okay. Notice that if I didn't write overlay and I just put the value like this, it's not going to like it because it's expecting in the second parameter short title. So I prefer to be here explicit and say overlay equals true. You're welcome to risk it and just leave the true there and expect that the language is going to match that true with the overlay while being in the second position where it should be in the third, you know. So being explicit here reduces the risk of patterns, parameters not matching with the actual value. So we got overlay true and we saved, and the thing is still there. You know why? Because the tricky compiler, the overlay, doesn't update. It doesn't remove the panel and put in reprocesses that specific thing from the indicator. So you have to delete it from here and add it again to the chart. It took me a while back in the day, like 4 years ago, to discover all this. It's not the only nuance of PineScript. There's plenty of weird things that I started in version 2 or 3. We are in version 6, and they're still there. I guess it's not a big deal, but I'm obsessed with with things being convenient. Here we have the SMA 50, and I'm showing you how to implement it, but there is literally not much value into just getting here because you could just use the SMA and search for it or simple moving average. What do they call it? Moving average. They call it maybe something else. Moving average simple. Anyways, they call it upside down when it's an indicator. The same company in here calls it SMA, and the other one they call it MAS. And it's there. It does the same. If we put 50, it works. It's gonna just overlap. You're not gonna be able to see that there are two things, but they have the same values. There you go. Data window confirming that we are good in good direction, right? We have the same value compared to the official implementation. So here we could add more stuff to my script 23, but I'm gonna show you something. This SMA that I brought from indicators has something here that says source code. All you have to do is hover with the mouse on the name, moving average simple, and hit this source code. That's gonna show you the code of moving average simple. That is a lot longer than ours. Why is that? Well, because SMA offers, smoothing. It's got support for different time frames. It's got as well the parameters in here that are interactive. You can write down this 50. You can select the source that you're gonna use. Well, it's got an offset as well. You can move it left and right by one bar by one. Like for example, if I do this, it pushes it to the left or to the right. So it's got a lot of extra additional things that we don't have. If I hover my script and I hit settings, we don't have any single setting. So it's not interactive enough really if I wanted to change something. So here is where beginners tend to get trapped, because people that I've seen working with PineScript, they go with the code and they write here SMA 50, then they put this 50 here. And if they want the SMA 51, they save here, right? That is a little bit inconvenient for many reasons, because every time that you're changing the value, you're waiting to this thing to compile, to redraw. And if you're going to use this as an indicator and you're going to connect it with something that backtests the outcome of this, when you hit save on this one, everything that depends on this, everything that is using this one as a signal, it disappears from the chart. That's another nuance in a TradingView. So how can we make this a little bit more elegant? And here's where we land in parameters, inputs. Yeah, we want to capture from the user that value and take that value and pass it into the SMA. And I think that would be a great upgrade. Let's say that we want to capture the SMA length from the user, and then we're going to create an input. So that is your magic word. When you want to capture something from the settings of the indicator, you have to create an input. And you start by typing what's going to be the default value. In this case, let's say it's 50. And then after that, let's give it a name, SMA length. And I think we can get away with just that. I think I need to give the type as well. That was a little bit, no, let's leave it just like that. By default, default, because I think you can put int here. In that case, you are saying what we're going to capture is an integer. You can also capture a floating point number, like 3.5, or you can capture, well, plenty of things. But in this case, is 50. If you don't put int here, it's still going to work because it's based on the default value, is inferring that you are doing an integer. So if I put 50.1, it's also going to infer that it's a floating number. Anyways, let's not make that too complicated. Let's just leave it like this. And I'm going to copy paste that parameter that we just captured into this variable SMA length. And I'm going to replace it for this, because if I don't do that, any value that the user puts in the input is not going to be passed into the SMA. This guy is going to be 50 forever. So we put now the variable, and now dynamically is capturing from the user the value and passing it into SMA and then plot it. So now I save and nothing changes in the chart. That's expected because we are using still 50. And I'm going to change now my settings. I should have some shiny settings, right? Now I have SMA length 50. And if I start decreasing this, I should see the SMA moving. And yes, it's changing, it's doing new calculations. It works perfect. Now, let's do a signal, okay? Let's do something that we can see when it's happening. I guess we could do moving average crossover, crossunder. That is extremely typical in a first episode of a beginner episode. So let's go into the code, and we're going to introduce a second moving average. And we shouldn't be calling this anymore 50 because it's dynamic. So we're going to call this the SMA fast, and then we're going to have an SMA slow, and I'm going to reuse this. So this is going to be SMA length fast, slow. The one that I already have is going to be the fast, and the title is going to say fast. And now that I have the first input, I'm going to do the second input, and this is going to be called slow, and this is going to be slow. And the default of the slow is going to be the 100. So my fast moving average 50, my slow is 100, and then I have the calculation of each one individually, and now I need to plot them. So fast and slow, and let's save, and voila, we have a fast and a slow in the chart. It looks perfect, and we got the two values in the data window. But what we need to really do is detect when there is crossovers, cross unders, and I would like to see actually as one of those labels that appear like saying this is a buy signal or this is a sell signal. So at least visually I can later scroll quickly and see if my buys make sense and my sells as well. So let's do that. But there's something that is already bugging me, which is the two moving averages are the same color. Can we color them? Can we style them? Can we give them different thickness and stuff like that? Absolutely. You can do everything that you ever seen in TradingView. It has been done with PineScript. So therefore it can be done. There are some things that you have seen in other platforms that cannot be done here. That's kind of my point of frustration sometimes when I want to get access to order book data, or I want to get access to liquidation pools that belong to other platforms and then code based on that with PineScript. That is still a pain. You still have to go into Python and implement something that runs in a server and pull the data and do a lot of extra hassle. And here's the beauty of PineScript. It's got everything in a single ecosystem. Yeah, it doesn't have all the data in the world, but the data that it's got, it works in this amazing ecosystem. You have the data, you have the coding, you have the community, you have the alerts, you have absolutely everything. And yeah, that is fantastic. Let's go and let's give these colors. So what do we want to give color? The calculation, the inputs, or the plot? What is the right answer? The plots, because we want to plot with a specific color. That has nothing to do with SMA. So that must be a parameter there inside the plot. Hit comma and search with your eyes until you find something that implies what we want to do. And it's right there, color. So let's type color, enter, and let's make the fast green and the slow red, and let's save. Just so you know how to do it, I'm gonna do a line width of 2 for just for the red, or maybe let's do it for both. That's gonna also help you seeing it from the distance. Now it looks fantastic, right? So what I want to do is whenever I get a bull cross, I want right underneath the price, I want to place a label that is pointing up in green with white text that says B for buy, and then S for sell when we get the bearish cross. So let's try to do that. And if you already have your laptop, you can try to do that with me. So the secret that I'm going to give you is that you can do it with plot, and I forgot, it's plot shape. With plot shape, we can do all of that. And it's asking for a bunch of parameters. We don't need to give all the parameters. Indeed, we need to decide which ones are the ones that we actually need. So we need series because we need to pass what's going to be the event of a buy. So that's something that triggers and it says now it's true or it's not true. And then we need a title. So later it's going to appear that title here in the data window. We need a style, whether we are going to use a label, an arrow, a triangle, a square, whatever. And where are we going to locate it? That we do with location, the color, the text color we need as well. Yeah, I think we're going to just use that. Let's go. First, we need to create the condition for the buy and the condition for the sell. So for that, I do buy signal. I'm just going to name it like this, but you can name it as buy or you can name it as whatever you want. That's just the name of the variable. And the buy signal is when there is a crossover of the fast over the slow. And for crossover, we are going to use TA. And there is crossover here. Crossover. And let's do crossover of SMA fast over SMA slow. And we got a buy signal. Now we're going to do a sell signal. And it's going to be TA cross under, SMA fast, SMA slow. And now let's plot that in the shape. So when we get a buy signal, that is going to be the series. When that is true, we get buy, and then the style is going to be, notice that as soon as I hit enter on style, it's showing me not just that we are about to type the style, but it's offering me the options right there in the documentation. And with the mouse, I can scroll if sometimes the documentation is pretty long and it's worth reading. That's how you learn. In the style, you can find all the different shapes that you can show with a plot shape. And I'm going to use the label up and label down. Label up, I'm going to use it for the buy label, just because I'm planning to place it underneath the price saying buy, because I'm expecting the price to go up. So I put the label below conveniently before the price shoots up, assuming it happens. Then after style, location is going to be location below the bar. Perfect. And we need to have it. We already put a title. Now we're going to put a text. And don't forget this one. If you don't put text, you're not going to see anything. And then we put the B. That title is for the data window. That text is what appears inside the label that we are plotting. So we got that B as well. We need to put a text color. I say I was going to use white. And what else were we missing? I think that's about it. And let's do it quickly for the last one. This is going to be sell signal, label down. This is going to be above the bar. This is S, and we keep it in white. And white in the colors. I haven't put color yet, but that's a buy, that's a sell. This is a buy, a sell. In this choppy area, there's tons of crosses. So let's add the color. Color, this is the buy, is green, and the sell is red. Okay, so in theory now, if we wanted, we could hide the lines and just stay with a signal. If we comment out these two lines, and I'm going to tell you how I did it, because I remember someone that was working with me didn't know this, and I do it without thinking, but when I need to think, I don't know how to do it. Okay, I selected, I selected by holding the shift and then moving with the arrows in the direction I want to select. If I go up, I select things like that. Now I'm going down and I have those two lines selected, and then with command and slash, it puts those double slashes at the beginning of the line, which means that that code is no longer applying. It's being ignored, skipped by the compiler. That is a quick way of getting rid of the SMAs from the chart without losing the code, because I could have deleted the code, but then if I don't put it somewhere else, I'm going to have to type it again. So when you have it in that clean state, then you can scan with your eyes better and notice immediately that that is a fake out. There is a bull cross somewhere in here, also another one in here, but then there is a move down in the price. Then you can change the time frame and also try different time frames that can also prove that something is good or not by changing time frames. But here's the problem. What if I want to analyze the performance of this? What if I want to confirm alarm in the long ride whether my signal is great or not. Can I do that with an indicator? And no, not by itself. So it's a yes and no. If you turn this indicator into backtestable, which is the name I gave to that a long time ago, if we turn it into backtestable, I'm going to explain what it means. That we could potentially connect it with another backtesting tool, like for example, Absolutno, that is part of the indicators that I offer as a pack in the shop. That's one of them, right? But there are millions of them, and there are thousands of backtesters that can backtest something like this if they take it as a source. But if we don't change this, if we don't make it backtestable, we cannot connect it to any backtester. That's option one, to delegate to a backtester, backtesting the performance of this signal. The option two is to convert the indicator into a strategy, okay? And I'm not gonna lie to you, but if you grab this code and you give it to ChatGPT and you say, turn it into a strategy, it will take a fraction of a second and it will turn it into a strategy. I still prefer, to keep control of what I'm coding, and I guess most of senior developers with over 20 years of coding are gonna tell you, I want to keep control of what's going on. With ChatGPT, you can do a lot of things, but it can also break a lot of things. So if you don't know what you're doing and you delegate everything to ChatGPT, you might be sitting on a pile of shit, or there might be a silent killer in your code. And here, supposedly, we are building things to make money, right? So we want to have an extra pair of eyes and don't give everything to AI and then look away, because if it's got any problem, it can burn. But let's say I want to turn this into backtestable. Well, that will be an option, and it's a quick option. So I'm going to bring in my backtesting tool of preference, which is Absolutno. And it's a DCA backtester that uses TA to fill the different safety orders. And it's very advanced. It's got a lot of things, and I'm definitely not going to be able to cover it fully in here. But I just want to explain what do we need to do to this script that we just created to basically being able to connect it to this backtester with external signals. In here, my script, I want to be able to select that when it prints a 1, that it opens safety orders. And maybe we could exit with the bear cross. I mean, it's going to be definitely a disaster in terms of performance, but technically speaking, we are learning how to do it. And I guess that is the main goal of this tutorial workshop. So I'm going to make the changes so this becomes backtestable, and that is just 2 more lines. It's very quick. So I'm going to use the function plot again, but this time if I get the buy signal, so if buy signal is true, and I'm going to ask with a question mark, that's the way you do it. If there is a buy signal, I'm going to print 1. And otherwise, if there is a sell signal, I'm going to print a 2. And if none of those, I'm going to just leave it in 0. Okay, so we need to remember that the 1 is the buy, the 2 is the sell. And then we can give it a name in here, and I'm going to call it signal. I tend to call always this signal or something signal, and now it's appearing in the data window, and it's also being plotted, and it's plotting a 1. And if we zoom out, we're going to see the 1 0 1 0 1 0 1. Let's zoom in a lot. I don't know how to zoom in faster than this with this specific. There you go. You're going to be seeing now the signals are right there. You got that 2 and that 1 is somewhere there. So you believe me, right? Also, another way you can do that is you can place the cursor right where you see the signal, and on the right hand side in the data window you see a value of 1. Signal equals 1. Then it's 0 0 0 0 0 0 0, and on the cell is 2. So that is one way of confirming that it works, and it does. So now I can go back to Absolutno, and I can enable it, and I can go to the settings, and I can say when my script signal is 1, I'm gonna enter, and when my script signal is 2, I'm gonna exit, and I'm gonna allow things to close at a loss just so I can see how terrible this performs. And let's see if it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So in here we got a buy signal. Let's see the data window somewhere in here. There you go. That's the buy signal number 1. We enter in a position and we haven't closed it because there's still no signal to exit. And in here there was a buy signal as well, and we got the sell in a loss, and it closed right there. So it is doing what it's supposed to be doing, and we are able to go also into the backtester. Absolute no is a strategy, therefore it can use the strategy tester pane, and you can see the performance. Well, we are slightly in the positive minus fees. This is an absolute disaster, of course. But we basically built from scratch an indicator. We learn how to accept user inputs. We learn how to plot it, how to create a signal, how to show the signal in the chart with labels, and then how to backtest it. So I think that's kind of the core of this. Let me see if there's something else I wanted to cover. We could talk about making it interactive. We could talk about alerts as well. Yeah, that's a good thing also to include in the basic tutorial. So let's say you got your signal, and your signal, you want to set an alert every time there is a bull cross. There you should go probably in here to my script. That is your new creation, and the signal, actually let's do it the proper way, okay? Because we can do it doing some hacking and saying when signal equals 1 and blah blah blah, but there is a lot more robust way of doing that, which is alert condition, and we put the condition in here, and we give it a title, and let's say buy, and message, I'm gonna leave it empty, and then I do alert condition for the sell, and I save it. Cool. And I go into alert, and notice this, that now we have in my script, there is straight away a buy and a sell. That is thanks to us adding this new alert condition. And we can change the time frame from here. That's great. That wasn't there before. And we can select it every 15 minutes, or we can increase the time frame before calling the alert. And then from message, we can write down a message that we want to include in the actual notification or email, or when we are calling the webhook. And then in here, we decide what to do with the alert, to send it, to see a toast or notify, play a sound, anything that you want to do, you can do it from there. That is really useful. I use it a lot. I have hundreds of alerts from different things that I have built. Let me see what else we could cover in this part. I'm not going to cover repainting. I mean, I know that repainting is a big topic, but it's a little bit too much for your first day in PineScript. We're going to do more advanced sessions of PineScript. I'm itchy really to go into the technical, you know me. But I want to have one dedicated to, first day. This is your first day in PineScript. You finally, want to become a proper man. Then, jump into this tutorial and get started. Okay, let's do a little bit more technical things in here. So in PineScript and in many languages that process financial data, a stream of candles back in time, there is the concept of a series, okay? And all variables in PineScript are a series. I hope I'm not losing you there. And why is that? Because, well, in financial instruments, you have values and you have time, back in time. So you can go back in time from the recent candle, and you say, this is the present, this is one candle back, two candles back, three candles back, blah, blah, blah. And PineScript is optimized for that situation, which is makes sense. That's the way financial instruments work. So why am I saying this? Because, for example, the variable close, which goes in red because it's a variable that belongs to the language, has this, because it's a series, you can invoke close 1, close 2, close 3, close 4, and so on to access what was the close 2 candles back in time, right? And you can do that in a similar way to high, to close, to open, and to low, and to all the other combinations. But you can also do it with calculations of series also turn into a series. Let me show you how is that. Let's say we have a variable that is open plus close, and we divide this by 2 because we want to have the average. Then variable also is a series. They kind of inherit this property that you can go back in time. And some cool things that this series give you are functions that are specifically designed for series. So you can say bars since something happened, okay? In how many bars ago we have the open above the close, and you can call this a condition, and that can go back in time and keep a register as if it was a spreadsheet, that every time that there is a new record, it ticks the box or it doesn't tick the box, right? So for example, imagine a spreadsheet that has all the opens and all the close. It's a series, right? From top to bottom in this case. And right next to that, there is a new column now that says, is open more than close? Yes or no? It's going to say yes, 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 no, 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 no. And this this function looks into that series and is now going to keep track of how many candles back in time that condition was true. When was the last time it was true? And it is going to turn that into a number. 5 candles ago, the open was above the close. And that is really, really, really convenient for doing calculations, for designing your strategies. Like if you have conditions that happen at different timing, like first you want a bull cross and then you can wait up to 5 days after. And if you find the second condition true, then if you're still within that time span of the last 5 days, you trigger the actual signal. And that can create really powerful combinations of not just technical conditions, but also timing conditions. And that can all go into a very cool indicator. I think I'm gonna leave it in here. I think I went deep enough. If you have any questions, just leave them in the chat. And I'm just gonna scroll through the last thing in case I can fill the last 5 minutes with something really cool that I may have forgot. Operators, yeah, I can cover a little bit of that. The functions, I didn't cover how to do our own functions, but when you're just getting started, I guess you can survive a little bit without that. Yeah, I guess we can wrap it up like this, and I would really like to know what is your feedback on this. You, as an elite member, number one, do you want more of this once a month, or you want to go back to just TA during Thursdays? I mean, I enjoy both. I love doing TA. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. And I also really like teaching how to code. I did this from the 90s in the university when I was teaching, and I was teaching C at that time. So let's wrap it up in here. This was cool. It's been a while. I don't touch base with PineScript. I am getting a little bit rusty, but still good enough to teach the basics. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to join this thing, yeah, the link is in the description for Patreon. I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye bye.